Goya Gonzalez Delakia.
Here.
Anna Smith.
Here.
Christine Maurer.
Here.
Trish Bodie.
Here.
Sade Fashokun.
Here.
Francesca Romans.
Here.
Paul Gauthier.
Here.
It is 6:16 p.m. and with the quorum of the board present, I call this meeting of the Leander ISD Board of Trustees to open. All right, we're going to start with our student pledge, and it is my pleasure to welcome Cadet Alvaro Santos of the Lone Star Company Navy Junior ROTC at Vista Ridge High School to lead the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Cadet Santos, a 9th grade student at Vista Ridge High School, is an active member of the Lone Star Company's Color Guard, Marksmanship, and Cybersecurity teams. Cadet Santos takes pride in serving the community as a volunteer in Milburn Park at local Adopt-A-Road cleanups. Despite his first year in NJ ROTC, Cadet Santos has competed in 4 drill competitions and accumulated 30 hours of community service. His design and commitment to service, sharp personal appearance, and exemplary conduct earned him the designation of Cadet of the Month for February 2024. Cadet Santos' performance and dedication were a vital part of the Lone Star Company's success, which resulted in his unit qualifying to compete in the National NJ ROTC competition in Pensacola, Florida. His actions reflect most favorably on the Lone Star Company Navy Junior ROTC, his school, and Leander ISD. Well done, Cadet Santos. Thank you.
Please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you again, Cadet Santos and his mom. Can we give him a quick round of applause? Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to our Spotlight on Learning. We're going to hear from some of our amazing students and staff at Glenn High School. Come on up.
Amazing staff and students, and the focus of our spotlight tonight is empowering staff. And this was an opportunity that I became very, very excited about when I heard, because it was really going to be an opportunity for us to really look at the things that we're doing.
And now I'm even more excited. Okay. So, as I said, I was really excited about this opportunity because each year, we put our campus improvement plans together and we talk about how we're going to, the student experience, the staff experience, and how we're going to ensure that our teachers are getting what they need so they can ensure that students have the best experiences in classrooms. So you put that in writing and you lay it down, but then being intentional about coming back to look at that. And so when we had this opportunity, I said, what I want to do first is talk to some of our kids. I want to talk to kids first and figure out and let them tell me, is this happening? It sounds good when we say it, but kids, what's happening in classrooms? And so I was fortunate enough to have over 2,100 to choose from. And these here were gracious enough to come and talk with me about it. And some of them were not super excited when they got called to my office because these are not kids who come to the office very much, so they weren't sure why they were coming. So I asked them to come down and talk with me a little bit about the teachers who impact them every day, the teachers who really ensure that their experiences are engaging and relevant. And so it didn't take long for them to jump right in and identify some really amazing teachers. And so I'm going to be quiet and let the teachers talk about how they're supported on campus and let the students talk about their experiences in the classroom.
Just going to hand it over to me like that. All right. Well, when I first was approached with this opportunity, by the way, my name is Matt Riley, I'm a world history teacher at Glenn High School. I was really excited to hear that Ishan had nominated me as this teacher that has empowered him and helped him. And it was just an honor to kind of feel that, because as a teacher, day in and day out, we work, and a lot of us work really hard in what we do, and it's nice to kind of get that feedback sometimes from our students that we really do make a difference, that we have had an impact, because a lot of times those things go unsaid. Some of the students we impact, we don't ever know about until sometimes years later or sometimes never, so it's nice to get that feedback. And I couldn't be more appreciative for my opportunity at Glenn. We work real hard, we plan hard, we do all those things to make a successful learning opportunity for our students, and I think fortunately it's played out that way for our students and for our teachers as well. So thanks, Ishan.
Yeah, so when Dr. Miller asked me who I wanted to nominate as my teacher, Mr. Riley was obviously one of my first options, because when I moved here from Sugarland sophomore year, I was very nervous when I first came to Glenn. Obviously I didn't know anyone, I didn't really have any friends, and I remember sitting in his class, and obviously one thing that really stood out to me in his class was just the atmosphere of it. He would obviously everybody has a different way of learning. Some people are visual learners, some people like hands-on learning. Mr. Riley's teaching style, he taught in a way where everybody could learn in his class and everybody had fun in his class. And thinking back, it's one of my favorite classes I've ever taken. I wasn't ever the biggest fan of history, but I ended up enjoying this class so much that I went back junior year to take another history class that he offered, just so I could spend time with them. And I learned a lot in that class too, and it was obviously very fun to be in.
I was also a student of Mr. Riley, and I really enjoyed his classes as well. And he was definitely a teacher I thought of when Dr. Miller asked me to pick a teacher. But I did pick Mr. A. He's an amazing teacher of mine. He taught me AP World History, and fortunately this year, or unfortunately because we lost our teacher, but fortunately because he picked up the role, he now teaches me AP Government. And it's very difficult because that he's not what he teaches, but he does such a good job of keeping us prepared and getting us ready for that AP test while also keeping us engaged. Because just like last year, this year it's just been such an amazing class. You're excited to come to it, and you know that you're really going to get a deep understanding of it. And I also love how he cares about his students more than the classroom. It's also about our lives. He knows about our games. He knows about what's going on in our lives, and you know that he's a really caring teacher that we can really count on. So thank you, Mr. A.
Hello, everybody. In terms of teacher empowerment at Glenn High School, the number one thing that motivates us as teachers and individuals and parents is that we're blessed to have such amazing students as Ishan and Cindy and hundreds others at Glenn High School. What brings us to work every day and brings us that passion, that dedication, is knowing that we have eager learners and the future of our community. Every day we see them, we witness their greatness, and they continue to impress every day. In particular, today we did a situation room in our AP Government class where we challenged our students to simulate the bureaucracy of the executive branch and to see how the many options of dealing with an aggressive North Korea would affect the United States of America. And we had great leadership in the classroom, and their levels of insight are just so profound. It's really incredible to see what they can accomplish, and they make us very proud. So we really appreciate all you do and all you are.
Hi, I'm Lindy Hutton. I'm the lead culinary instructor at Glenn High School. I am very thankful that I'm on a campus where we have the freedom to be able to empower our students. We have obstacles removed so that we can empower our students, so we can challenge them on a daily basis. We can take somebody who does not know what an eighth of a teaspoon is, because there is no measure for that, and we can give them the real-world experience of the real-world math, the real-world science, the hands-on learning that many of our students struggle with. They start out and they don't feel a lot of schooling's for them. I constantly have to kick kids out of class and say, I love you, go to class. You cannot be with me all day long. Love you enough to get you an education. Because they feel that they're in a place that they belong. They feel that they can achieve. And it's very important, and I'm very fortunate to be a CTE teacher, and fortunate that our district supports and our campus supports our CTE programs in a way that we can make every student feel empowered and every student feel and know that they can achieve at anything they put their minds to.
And I will tell you, we had a third student that was going to join us tonight.
Mia Whitaker. She couldn't be here because she was ill, but when I called her down and asked her to identify a teacher, she walked in my office and she kind of looked around and she said, now why am I here, Dr. Miller? And I said, well, I want to talk with you a little bit about a teacher. Any teacher in this building who has really made an impact on you, created a positive experience for you, a class that you like going to every day. And she said, oh, Mrs. Hutton, of course, Mrs. Hutton. And so then she starts talking about Lindy, and she talks about the confidence that she has gained in being in that class and the relationships that she's been able to build, not only with Mrs. Hutton, but with the other students in the classroom. And at one point, she kind of got a little teary-eyed because she was talking about she didn't think that she would be able to be successful in that class necessarily. And this was a place where every day she felt like she could go and she knew she was going to be successful regardless of what the activity was, regardless of what they were doing, because of the relationship that she had not only with the teacher, but with the other students in the classroom. And so I was super, super excited to be here, and I'm glad that we all made it. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight and representing our campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Just to share from the board, this is absolutely the highlight of our board meetings, is hearing from students and teachers. So thank you for what you do every single day. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And I hope that you all see you have a treat. You have a treat from Mrs. Hutton. Yes.
And thank you, Glenn Culinary. These are hot cross buns. So thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see
Sorry
you.
to hear that you were going to be leaving us.
Yeah. Well, here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Stand back there, Gloria. Stand back there. We need to get tighter. Chat soon. We'll chat soon. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we're going to move on to citizen comments portion of our agenda. Before I invite the first speaker to the podium, we're going to watch a short introductory video.
Hello, my name is Kellen. And my name is Mason. We're both fifth graders at Steiner Ranch Elementary. The district and the Board of Trustees are the local government body responsible for serving the educational needs of all school children, like me and my friends here in Leander Independent School District. Their mission is to cultivate each individual student while creating a safe and supportive environment. The board is now taking up the citizens' comment agenda item. This is dedicated time during this meeting to hear from the whole community, and the entire LISD family. The district believes the Leander family thrives when we ensure a welcoming, safe, and caring environment. To our speakers, before you speak, we hope you have read guidelines and specified in board operating procedures and BED local. The board wants to hear from everyone. Please be mindful of your conduct and the example you are choosing to set when presenting complex information. Remember that school children of all ages participate in board meetings, either by watching them online or you might even see some of us in the audience. Still remember that there are other ways you can communicate with the board. You can send them an email, come to the board cafe, or just tell them that you would like to chat sometime. When the board president calls your number, remember, watch the timer and focus on your remarks to the time allotted. We know it can be hard, but please conclude your comments when you hear the chime.
Wonderful. We will start with speaker 1. Please come to the podium.
Thank you, Board of Trustees and Dr. Gehring, for giving us your time and energy to the district. My name is Stephanie Berkey. I'm a parent of a recent LHS graduate and a current LHS junior, and I'm also an active volunteer in the Leander ISD district. I was proud to work with all in LISD to block walk in 2023 to get the bonds passed. As I mentioned earlier, my kids attend LHS. I'm very impressed with the quality of teachers and staff members at LHS. Last year, as a member of CFAC, I got to tour most of our high schools and see the wide range of needs at each one. In light of new security requirements, LHS needed some changes to its current building layout. I'm glad that the 2023 bond passed and now LHS Phase 1 building can begin. Those of you who have been in LHS and survived the puzzle to find your way back out know how beneficial a more cohesive floor plan will be for our students and staff. Thank you again to our staff and administration for utilizing our bond money in a way to best serve our community at large. We are all in LISD, and we want to remind you that it's important to vote in local elections. Whether you're voting in May or November, remember, education is always on the ballot.
Thank you, speaker number 1. Speaker number 2, please come to the podium.
Oh, do I have to press a button? Oh, I'm sorry. First time. Okay. I turned it off. I'm sorry.
They got you.
Okay. Can I finish this because my timer started? Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Problem child here. Okay. Good evening. My name is Rachel Wilkes. I have 4 children who attend Westside, Cedar Park Middle, and Cedar Park High Schools. Secondary school rezoning was passed last year, and the changes discussed tonight affect CPHS in a negative and disproportionate way. First, when the board approved Scenario 2, it increased enrollment at CPHS to around 2,300 students for the next 9 years. Forums were held and the community spoke clearly that 2,600 students was too much, because as anyone who walks the halls or sits in a classroom can testify, there is no room. The board asked for more options, and Scenario 2 was a compromise with 2,300 students. October projections show that the entire community dialogue has been nullified. If CPHS had been presented with accurate data last year, there would have been much more resistance to Scenario 2. Second, the entire purpose of rezoning was to relieve Glenn and Danielson. They have been over-relieved. With current projections, Glenn will not reach the 2,600 enrollment of CPHS until 2031. We didn't solve a problem, we moved the problem to CPHS, and it's a losing proposition for current CPHS students as well as those being rezoned. We don't get good outcomes by doubling down on decisions based on bad information. I ask the board to please delay the implementation of Scenario 2 at a minimum until the HVAC construction is completed in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker number 2. Speaker number 3.
Here in the district, I wanted to speak of how wonderful it is that our community elected a group of caring and dedicated individuals. While you are all busy with jobs and families, you still manage to set aside so much of your time in order to be present here. I have sat next to many of you at meetings where you encourage community members to dream big for our district. I have sat next to you as you thoughtfully shared your hopes, aspirations, and sometimes fears for public education. I have sat next to you as you intently and patiently listen to community members as they express their opinions on a bevy of issues. I have sat next to you as you have advocated for the needs of our diverse student body, and those are just the committees. So many of you also take the time to show up to the myriad of events, of which there are oh so many, to cheer on and support our students. Not every district is lucky to have board members who are so invested in the well-being of the students and community. Knowing that there is such dedication at this level assures me that our students are in good hands. Seeing that the majority of you on this dais are here to uplift every student means that our community will continue to grow into a brighter and more welcoming place, a place where children can thrive. It is your dedication that makes me all in LISD, and much of this was only possible with our community showing up to vote. So just as a reminder, it is important to vote in the local elections. Whether you're voting in May or November, education is always on the ballot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, speaker number 3. Speaker number 4.
Hello, my name is Alexis Huddleston, and I've been teaching in the district for 6 years, and I am all in for LISD. Tonight, I want to commend you for your dedication in the face of the many difficult decisions that you have to make in your position. A year and a half ago, we had a very contentious but extremely important school board election, followed by a bond election half a year after that. Both of these have had such a positive impact on our community, especially in the face of rezoning decisions. I know that making everyone happy in a district of our size is an impossibility, but I'm grateful for your thoughtful intentionality as you try to do right by our families and our students. We as a district are experiencing a lot of changes. The north side of our district is experiencing rapid growth, and the demographics of our schools are changing. Our staff have grown to numbers beyond what can be housed at one single campus for CIC. We have buildings that need repairs or expansions, and we are doing our best at all levels to meet those needs. Construction projects have started using bond money to repair, to expand, and to create. Committees are discussing how to maintain the Leander Way with a district of our size. Rezoning will help alleviate overcrowding. It's not perfect work, but it's necessary. As a teacher, I have a more myopic lens on most days, but you all must take a bird's eye view. That's not easy in a district with this many moving parts, but I want to commend you for staying student-centered, for showing up here and at events, and for showing time and time again that you have a heart for our students. Thank you for being all in LISD.
Thank you, speaker number 4. Speaker number 5.
It's always funny. Hi, my name is Celeste Fonert. I'm a proud parent of 4 kids in LISD, and I am all in LISD. First, I want to commend the tireless efforts of our community and the board's commitment to ensuring a continued bright future for our children through the initiatives like the passage of Vader and ACE in November 2022. These victories were not only monumental, but have had tangible, positive impacts. Thanks to these measures, our district has been able to provide well-deserved raises for our hardworking staff, including teachers, support staff, and those in special education. The financial prudence demonstrated has saved our district over $30 million, mitigating the large impact of state recapture, limiting property tax increases, and all the while ensuring stable funding for our schools. I also want to take a moment to celebrate achievements of All In LISD since its formation in early 2022. The dedication of this PAC has been instrumental in driving positive change within our district, from assisting the election of pro-public education candidates to the board, to actively engaging in grassroots efforts such as block walking and voter outreach. All In LISD has proven to be a powerful force for progress within Leander ISD. It's through initiatives like these that, by rallying community support through signage, social media campaigns, and direct voter engagement, All In LISD has paved the way for much needed infrastructure improvements and future school construction. We will continue to do this work in 2024, and we invite all parents, teachers, and community members to join us.
Thank you. Speaker number 5. Speaker number 6.
I just came to say thank you to those of you that came out to the district art show last Saturday. As an art teacher, it really means a lot for us to see you at our events showing your support. Your presence did not go unnoticed, and we genuinely appreciate that you chose to spend your Saturday celebrating our amazing art students. I've also noticed several of you at other community events throughout the year, and I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to show up. It means so much to us to see that you genuinely care about what our students are doing and learning. And I know that you go to more than just district-wide events too, taking the time to see what individual campuses are producing as well. I saw at least 2 of you at our school's play in January, and I have to say that it meant so much to me that you came to greet me by name. We've only interacted in a few committee meetings and settings like this, and yet you took the time to say hi to me personally, showing your true character as board members and how much you care about all of us in LISD. I'm so happy to see such genuine and community-minded people on our school board in recent years. This is why I'm all in LISD, and I want to remind you that it's important to vote in local elections. Whether you are voting in May or November, remember that education is always on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 6. Speaker number 7, please come to the podium.
Hello, Board of Trustees. Thank you for having me today. I've got a kid in Leander ISD, and I had just one that recently graduated as well. I'm a member of All in LISD, and I just want to say I know that the board previously, when they voted on putting the Vader up for vote, and also voting for teachers increases as well, it really relied on a trust in the community. And I feel like I really feel proud that we were able to give that back and give that back to our teachers. The important thing about Vader, if for people that don't know, is that the Vader led to increases in pay raises for teachers, which is so valuable. I want to let you know that All in LISD spent hours educating people on the Vader, which is a very complex thing. I do want to also highlight again the local elections. The local elections are so important for public education. May 4th is going to be an important date for a lot of elections, including local city elections, and also the appraisal districts, including Travis County and Wilco, which impact funding for our schools. I do also want to highlight as well, we are going to have a event tomorrow at the Fifth Element Brewing Company. It's at 6 o'clock, so please join All in LSD if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 7. Speaker number 8, please come to the podium.
Thank you. I'm James Dean. I appreciate all the volunteers that are here and all the work that they've done to elect a pro-public education school trustee board, except for one, and all that they did to pass the various financial propositions to increase the pay for our teachers. Very, very important. I also want to mention that this Sunday will be Trans Visibility Day. Too many people in our community are LGBTQ+, as we saw in Oklahoma recently, when they are bullied and abused sometimes and assaulted, sometimes they take their own lives and commit suicide. We have to do more in our community and our school system to make sure that that does not happen. And days like Trans Visibility Day is an important day for us to lift that up and to let those people know that things will get better, that we do love them just for who they are right now, let alone who they're going to become. Trans Visibility Day this Sunday, I hope we'll all take the time to lift those people up and let them know that they're loved. But I appreciate Leander ISD. I appreciate all that we're doing for our students, for our teachers, for our staff people, for our community, building a better tomorrow. Thank you again, and God bless.
Thank you. That was our final speaker, and next we're going to move on to the consent agenda items. Board members, do you have any motions related to consent agenda?
I move the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
A second.
Anna makes motion, Christine seconds. All those in favor? Consent agenda passes 7-0. Next, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Gearing, take it away.
Thank you, Madam President. There we go. So I love it when people talk about all the things that I'm going to talk about before I talk about them. But I got pictures, so have a little more power. As you know, as you heard, District Art Show was this last weekend, and we just want to say a huge thank you to our students and to their teachers for the incredible display of work that was there for our community to enjoy, for us to understand all of the creativity and all of the hard work that goes into all of those things. I do want to talk a little bit about empowered staff, and in this case, I think it's really important, as you heard several times already tonight, that we all become voters. And that means every election, every time. So just as a reminder, the municipal election day is Saturday, May 4th. You do have to be registered to vote in that election, and the deadline for that is April 4th, which is coming up very quickly. There's also a very important primary runoff election on Tuesday, May 28th, and we urge people to make sure that they understand what's on the ballot and do their homework, but most importantly, that they show up and vote. These elections will affect public education in the state of Texas. As always, we are going to talk about empowered learners, and in order to do that, I want to focus us back for a brief moment on the learning model. And we're going to start in the middle and come out this time. Remember, in the middle is this focus on student learning. And you know that from our strategic plan that our ultimate goal is empowered learners. But as you come out, remember that there's a lot of designing of learning happening in the district, implementation of that learning, and then assessment of the performance of our students as we go through. The learning environment is extremely important because that's where we create the opportunities for these learning experiences to happen. And then lots of processes and procedures that have to be in place at both the district and the campus level. And then, of course, the work that you as a board have been doing very diligently over the last 5 years, especially, and I say that because that's how long I've been here with you, so I know you worked on it before that too. But over the shared vision and goals of the district, and specifically over the graduate profile. And so I do want to focus on that for just a second, because as we go through, I'm going to share a video with you of one of our empowered students. And as we listen to Annie, I want you to think about what's in the learning model, and then I also want you to think about what's in this graduate profile. And I want you to try to identify some of those things as we watch this brief video of Annie.
And so everything on this board has a relationship, doesn't it? It does. Do you want to talk? Are you nervous? Okay. Do you want Annie to talk right now? Okay, that's okay. You don't have to. You can be her support system. Does that sound good? Okay. Annie, all right. So let's talk about relationships over here with these numbers. Look at all these numbers. What did you learn about these numbers? What was this?
We learned that all team numbers have to have a 10 to be a team number.
They do, right?
And they all start with 1.
But when I see this, it's a tug of war?
Yep.
Some people thought that wasn't true.
Yeah. All team numbers have to have a 10, and we did. If we didn't think that was true, we put it on no. If we didn't know, we put it in the middle. If we're like, I don't know, but I'm kind of sure, in there. And then yes is over here.
Yes. And is there a relationship?
Put it a little
Oh, go ahead, Nicholas. What?
And if you put it a little close by the yes, that means you think it's yes.
You think it's yes. So it's close to yes right here, right? Yeah? And do all these things have something in common? What?
They're all team members.
They're all team members that have tens in them, so they have that relationship, don't they? Okay, Annie, what's the relationship between a 2D shape and a 3D shape?
They both are shapes, and on 3D shapes, like a cylinder, they can have circles or any kind of other 2D shape.
Okay, awesome. So they kind of relate to each other, relationship. Yeah. Nicholas, is there something you want to talk about on the board? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Annie's going to take the show for us today. All right, Annie, you still comfortable talking about everything? I see the word digraph on there.
A digraph is two letters that make one sound, like ch and sh or like all those.
And if they didn't have a relationship, what would happen?
They would just make the normal sound if they weren't together.
Okay. So can you give me an example?
So like in it's NG, but if it was just the N, it would say
And what would the G say? Right, thank you, thank you. By the way, that was not prompted. All right, so let's look over here. We still have more stuff on your learning wall. A lot. Did you guys come back and talk about this a lot together? Yes? Would you like to talk about that? No. Okay, that's okay. All right, what about snails and worms and isopods? I see those on there too.
They are all needing to be moist to stay alive, and worms also help the earth, so they can be food, and also they dig into the dirt to make like roots and stuff.
And did you guys do some research? What did you research?
We researched about koalas.
Was there
And
something?
we made these many books about koalas.
Okay. That's fantastic. Is there anything else that you would want to share that's on this wall?
Do you want to share your fun fact that you learned about koalas that you told me in the hallway? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. You can say it.
Koala's poop smells like eucalyptus.
You'll need that one day.
Why do you think that, Annie? Why?
Because they eat eucalyptus.
Exactly. Makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Makes sense. Do you guys have any questions for them? I'm sure they'll answer them.
You did a great job.
All right.
Can I ask one question? Sorry, I had to think about my question for a minute. So how does that wall help you every day as you're learning?
So as we're learning, we learn a lot of stuff, so we put it on the learning wall. So like if we have a wondering, we'll put it on the learning wall, and then we'll do like research and learn about it, and then we'll answer the question.
And your wondering can be anything you want?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Annie and Nicholas, have you been thinking about relationships even after you have studied this? Like, have you noticed other relationships in the world?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like what? Do you have an example? Can you think of something that may not be on your learning wall that you think could be a relationship?
So I found out something about koalas when we finished learning about koalas.
Okay, what?
So I found out that koalas eat eucalyptus, and it's also poisonous to other animals, and it's not poisonous to koalas, and koalas also sleep during the day, and they're hunting at night.
Wow.
Did you just learn that because you wanted to go find it out all by yourself?
Not usually we do it all by ourselves, because we usually have partners.
Got it. Smart. Very cool. Very cool.
All right, Annie, Nicholas.
Good job.
Fantastic job.
Yes, yes, yes.
Go out the secret way. Okay, go out the
Secret way.
So Annie is a kindergartner. And all over Tarvin Elementary School, all over Tarvin, they have these learning walls in the classrooms. Their focus is on inquiry learning. And so I was in second grade classrooms today where they actually take their wonder-ins, turn them into questions, but they have two different types of questions. They have thin questions, which are easy questions to answer that you don't have to do too much thinking about. And then thick questions, which are much meatier. You have to go away and do some research and work with your partner to delve into what those are. So incredible things are happening all over Leander ISD, and we were going to continue to find and show you examples of what it looks like when we are helping students to prepare themselves for anything. So because she's in kindergarten, I thought it was appropriate for us to point out that pre-K and kindergarten registration opens April 1st, and we encourage all of our families to take advantage of that. And then there's actually a pre-K registration family fair happening, and so you can find the details that are on this slide on our website as well. And so we really do just encourage everybody to come on out and get registered. All right, let's turn to safe and innovative learning environments for just a second. Of course, Nikki Prindle is the new principal at elementary school number 30, which that may be the last time I get to say that, hopefully, tonight. And also her assistant, Robin Harvey. And so they were touring their space, make sure that everything is in order. And so we wanted to just share some update pictures of where we're going at elementary 30 out on St. Gabriel Parkway. So I see Jimmy somewhere, yeah. So Jimmy, are we all on track? It's nodding his head, yes. Everything is in good shape to open in August. All right. Yes. And that's what I have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we know if our guest is here for the naming? No? No? Oh, okay. I'm going to then go ahead and move. We can't take, if you need to talk to somebody, you talk to, we can't take questions from the audience. Sorry. 7, we're going to then move over to 7A2. Because 7A1, no, I'm sorry, we're going to move back to 7A1. We were going to try to jump to 7A2, but somebody on our committee is going to be here, right? Okay, so then we're going to stick with, starting with 7A1, the discussion of our instructional materials recommendation for adoption.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Gearing and board. And I finally learned how to use that other clicker, and there's a new one up here now. So I appreciate that. So I am here tonight, and I have a team of folks with me, a team of amazing people that really, they're really responsible for the work and leading teachers and the purchasing aspect of instructional materials adoption. I'm going to introduce them in just in a minute. Because I want to go through just a very quick overview of the process and some of the feedback that we received on the materials we're adopting, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions about purchasing and or any of the specific textbooks or adoptions. So the purpose of tonight, whoa, that goes fast, is to do just what I said. So we're gonna review that process and then talk about the textbooks. So I'll go right on to the next one. Here is an abbreviated timeline of the process. This started all the way back in August, and I've been through all this with you before, so I don't want to belabor it again, but I did want to put it in here just for the public and for as a reminder for the board. as we got those committees put together and started getting input from them, and then in August and September, but then by December, our teacher committee had narrowed it down to the top 2 or 3 texts per course or grade level content. And then in January, February is where there's a lot that happens. So we get specific feedback on those texts from different groups that are include our DWIC committee, the CACAC, and then anybody that wants to come and view those materials in central office or Cedar Park High School. Starting in February, the purchasing team was getting quotes from those folks, and they are still working on that. You may have noticed, if you remember in years past, there may have been prices included. In this particular presentation, science is a complicated adoption because there's so many kits and materials. I want to assure you we are moving forward with getting teachers the things that they need to implement these the new materials that we're adopting. We're just trying to get the best price, and that's what some of these folks behind me do. They haggle with the publishers to do that. And so we'll be bringing, you'll have those total amounts before you actually take action or consider approval at the April 11th meeting. So this is just a summary of the feedback. Again, I've been through some of this with you before. Our district steering committee, some of them are here tonight. Most of them are here tonight. Then our teacher committees included a total of 149 teachers for all the different content areas. And then campus committees vary campus by campus. We don't have a total number there. And then about 200 teachers were able to see the different potential the different texts at our CI conference. And then, like I said, we have the Community Curriculum Advisory Committee. It has varied in attendance from 15 to 30 people throughout the year. Up until now, we've had 5, but 4 events related specific to this adoption. And then the district-wide Educational Improvement Council, we had approximately 75 people there, and they gave us input. All of those, I'm skipping ahead, sorry. And then students, this was astounding. We had 1,840 students give input on these various adoption content areas. So that's nice to get that student feedback. Our virtual listening sessions we may fade those out next year. People just don't attend them. We had one person, so I don't know that nobody seems to be interested in those. But the good news is from all those different committee groups, people walking in, people getting online, we had 218 responses to give us feedback from the community. That does include teachers that weren't on a committee, parents, just whoever wanted to fill that form out or came to one of the events. So that was a significant improvement for us to get that amount of feedback. We did have 2 locations. We didn't track the number of people coming in. There were not a lot. People tend to go online. Everything you could see in person was available online as well. But we still do keep those materials out. And then our school community relations team let us know, I didn't know they tracked the number of people that view websites, but we had 1,300 views from 602 different people. So there are people looking at things on the website as well. It's nice. And then a lot of social media blasts and stories that are news stories that are updated on the website. Oh, wait a minute. Did I do that? Okay. I thought, surely I'm not that inept to go all the way somewhere totally different. All right. I appreciate that, though. Yeah. So here's the rubric. We have rubrics based on EF Local when we're determining which resources we even consider. And so that's just a brief overview there. And then, just as another reminder, here are all the courses and grade level or contents that we are adopting for this year. I believe this is where I'm going to introduce everybody. Yes. So I'm going to introduce, as they come, I thought what might make this a little bit easier is if you have questions, we'll introduce the coordinators for each content area. Then you could ask questions if you have them about those specific adoptions. So first I want to introduce our CTE Assistant Director of Career Development, and that is Jamie Everett. She's right behind me here. And then Mitzi Powell is the Coordinator of Career Development, and she is back here too. Yes, okay. So these are the courses that we these are the titles that we're adopting. There are 2 slides. Does anybody have any questions about these in particular that you wanted to ask? I know Jamie really wanted to answer something tonight. I'm just kidding. All right. Yeah. All right.
Well, if someone wants to answer something, then, I guess it's just a general question for all of them. What types of feedback did you get, whether it was in support or concern? Just some examples of the type of feedback that you received.
You want to come up and answer? Anybody can.
Okay, can you repeat it one time so I can hear a little closer?
So, do you have any examples of the types of feedbacks, just in general, in support or areas of concern, the types of feedback that people had?
Yeah, we had, and like was Chris shared, a lot of feedback and interaction between CACAC meetings and DWIC and community input. We were also really fortunate to actually get over 1,600 student responses back, and I think that was a huge celebration for us, and that was something that really supported a lot of the decisions across the board for all of our titles in terms of the student engagement and their responses for what they were looking for in text and interaction. And in CTE, that oftentimes involves those really student engagement and hands-on learning activities. So the resources really focusing on relative real-world experiences of content application and then those hands-on activities that are involved in our classrooms.
All right, thanks. Were there any areas of concern? Just pause to watch for, or it was just generally that whole positive feedback?
Overall, we had very positive feedback on all of the titles that are up for recommendation this evening.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask Anna to explain. They gathered input last year on what types of materials and what a science classroom would look like, and that was really impactful in this adoption process. But I can't explain it as well as she can. So
I'll try. So we accepted a TEXI grant, and part of the grant was led by mentors that asked us to do a needs assessment. And so we asked our community members, I think you probably got an invitation to submit, our teachers and our students, and we got about, I think it was 180 kids that said almost uniformly, we want hands-on, we want to do science, we want more of that, we don't want to sleep in class, we don't want to take notes, we want to feel really excited about what we're doing, we love our teachers, and we want to have fun in science, we want to do science. That was almost 100% of what we heard. Let's see, the feedback that we got on the materials tended to be, if it was negative on the ones that we didn't select, it tended to be about engagement. So that really is it. They really want to make sure that they knew what labs looked like, that there were going to be opportunities for kids to do the skills that scientists do, and have that real world application that Jamie was referring to as well. So it's probably very similar for all of our content areas. Kids really want to do, and they're kind of tired of the online all the time. So, yeah. Does that help? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
that is perfect, and I hope that answers your question. And I think it speaks to, because particularly with science, there's a wide variety of types of material out there to adopt. We could buy a chemistry book that's this thick, and the kids don't ever get to do anything but read about chemistry. But that type of feedback helps inform, and it aligns with the new TEKS in particular with science. So that. Okay, so now we also have Kip Harmon here, who is our senior coordinator of secondary social studies, and these are the courses that we're adopting for AP social studies. Do you have any questions? Do you guys see Kip? Yeah. All right, moving right along.
I'm going to make this one a lot easier for you than last time, okay? I think we may all have some PTSD from the last one, so I'm gonna not do that.
I also appreciate that too. Yeah. And we just heard from Anna Whitehaven, our secondary senior coordinator of science, but Jennifer Kajuba is our senior coordinator of elementary science. She is new to our district this year, but she is amazing. So wanted to introduce her and give you guys a chance to ask any questions about the science adoption. All right. Let me back up. And then I also want to introduce Greg Wright, Jennifer Anderson, and Liz Childress. They're from our purchasing team. If you have any questions about that process, they manage all the bids from the publishers and try and negotiate. They drive a hard bargain, from what I'm told, to get the best price for our district. All right, this is great.
I have
Thank
one overall question.
Yes.
So when we're voting on these, I trust our experts who've done all the research, and then thank y'all for the process. This process, y'all keep improving it every time with all the outreach, getting feedback now from students, teachers, community. It's amazing. So when we make our motion, we're approving, these are the products our teachers, our students, our experts are telling us we need in our classroom, and then y'all will go and find the best price possible for these products.
Absolutely.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to ask my fellow board members, are y'all okay with moving this to our consent agenda for next? All right. See, really easy. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Now we really will move to item 7A2, discussion and consider approval of elementary school number 30 naming.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Gearing. My name is Christina Hardy. I'm the Chief Communications Officer here in Leander ISD. And joining me this evening is Assistant Director of Communications, Daniel Cernero. A very nervous Daniel Cernero. And our ES30 Naming Committee Chairperson, Jennifer Gross. And we are excited today to recommend a name for Elementary School 30. The naming committee is ready to make a recommendation and is seeking approval of a name for the school that will be in the northwest part of the city of Leander off of San Gabriel Parkway. Thank you, Dr. Gearing, for providing the photos and the progress. It is amazing to see how far we've come in such a very short amount of time. So just in quick overview, just again, local policy, CW, indicates that we need criteria around naming for new facilities, and the policy also states that we will have a nomination process in place, but at the end of the day, the authority lies with the Board of Trustees. So this is a look at the charter, which was approved in September, outlining the committee membership and the desire to include student voice and choice as a part of the committee as well. Taking a look at our workflow, just to walk you through the process of nomination. This process took place at the end of September, where more than 600 Google Forms were submitted to name ES30. SCR categorized 635 forms and determined that there were more than 60 names of people and 14 different locations for unique nominations of 74 unique nominations. We decided that it was important for us to make sure that as we vetted and made sure that each of the nominations met the criteria. For the living nominees, SCR contacted either by phone or via email to make sure and seek permission if they wanted to be considered as a part of, as a name for ES30. So if granted, the names then moved forward to the committee. We had five people decline to be a part of the nomination process.
My turn. Okay, so I get to describe just the work we did as a committee. I was helping facilitate, and we had 4 meetings in March. So once zoning was approved, we convened as a committee and had 3 meetings before spring break. During those meetings, we were taking those 600 submissions, reviewing them, those 75 individual nominations, and just whittling down the list. That was the work of the committee. Over those 3 meetings, we narrowed it down to 4. They narrowed it down to 4 names, 2 names of people and 2 names of locations. We paused there for spring break. When we returned from spring break, Christine and I got to go to Baghdad and Plain Elementary School and meet with 4 students from each school. So we were able to bring those 4 nominations and collect the student feedback, and to be able to pass that along to the committee. It was really cool to see, like, those students obviously loved their schools at Baghdad and Plain, but they were really excited about Elementary School 30 and that they were able to be part of this process. So yeah, after spring break, we met with the students, and then a week ago, last Thursday, we brought that feedback to the adults on our committee, shared what the students thought, and checked to see if they were ready to make a decision. So we're going to come back just to show you the timeline.
So again, going back to when the board approved the charter back in September, we then collected names through a digital form. After that was approved, we then collected committee applications from both Baghdad and Plain Elementary, those communities, and then we saw the board approve the attendance zone for ES30.
So after the zoning was approved, we did look back at those committee members from the fall just to check to see if they were in the ES30 boundary. They were not, and so we did reach back out in right after the zoning was approved in early February to put out to collect more committee applications, and that formed the committee then that we used to do the work in March. So we've described that already, and that brings us to tonight, where we're able to pass it to the committee chair now to talk about the recommendation that they have. So this is our committee chair, Jennifer Gross, and take it away.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer, and it has been an honor and a privilege, and I want to thank you each for this opportunity. We thought it was so amazing that we were able to be part of it and take part in our children's futures. I have 3 kids. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. I have 3 kids that are going to go through this school, and for me, I had to preface everything with why I'm here as a person. I never envisioned a world where I would not have a connection to where my children went to school. I have 15 years in education. I taught elementary, middle school level, and I figured wherever I put my kids, it'll be safe. I know these are my friends, these are my colleagues, these are the parents that I have had in my classroom for 15 years. My kids are good. I'm not worried. And I relocated from Miami, Florida, and that safety was gone. I came somewhere where we don't know anybody and have no family here. And so when we got here and we were presented with this opportunity, I said, these are the roots. These are the roots that were unfortunately taken for a good opportunity, right? We heard Leander, we researched we heard Austin. And I said, I don't want Austin. I did my research and everything pointed to Leander. And the first thing that came up to Leander, first thing said, fastest growing city in the United States for 2 years going. And just after that, it was the district. And the data is the proof. So I said, I have to step back to be a mom, but I still want to be involved. This is still for my kids. So when I was able to be part of the committee, I jumped at the opportunity. And I didn't know that in this process, it would end up being a history lesson to where we moved, to where my kids are going to learn about everything that I really can't teach them because I didn't live it. It wasn't until we read these names and we saw the importance of the land and we researched and learned everything about LISD, the Leander Way. I didn't know what that was. But the people that have walked through the doors of every LISD school and the people that were nominated for this honor, it was clear as day that there was such rich information that we needed to learn that even the other committee members that have lived here their whole lives, they didn't know a lot of it. We left these meetings sweating, thinking we have to eliminate more names. The list has to get smaller, and these people are outstanding. How do we do it? The committee was amazing, and their passion and their support and their involvement from right off the bat was exactly what we needed, because we would meet up even after meetings sometimes and just chat for coffee, because I recruited neighbors. Like, our kids are gonna go here, let's get on this together, right? And so we would go for afternoon strolls and say, how do I remove that name? How do we compare the incomparable, right? Where I'm from in Miami, the names are far more generic. We have Blue Lakes, we have Glades, nothing passionate about those things. But what we revealed through this entire process was that the privilege that we have to have such amazing leaders that made Leander what it is today, LISD in specific, it's worth mentioning. The 70 names on that list are worth mentioning. And we felt as an entire committee that everyone was part of the impact and the legacy. We could feel the passion coming from the nominations, coming from these submissions. There were some of them that left physical emotion, we were physically moved by some of the things that these people wrote. These people have paved the way in so many different directions. We had teachers, we had administrators, we had trustees, we had so many different avenues to look at. And again, apples to oranges, right? How do we pick the best of the bunch? Because they're all great in so many ways. But the evident passion that we felt leads us to our recommendation for Mr. Donald Lewis Heisel, elementary school. We felt that if this person paved such a significant way in LISD that we felt it and didn't know him, we think about what the amazing and incredible father, grandfather, we left there saying we want to be friends with his family because he probably raised incredible people. He probably brought into this world the most amazing people that we could ever speak with, right? Because if he was that amazing, how could he not? From the beginning, regardless of how difficult it was, we always came back to Mr. Heisel's name. It was evident, the 20 years in the district, as a trustee, it was evident that he was selfless in his time and his commitments. I have a soft spot for volunteering. It's my thing. I love to do it. I felt like I was connecting with him even after his passing. The 8 schools to the 42 schools, there was just so many things that left this man's name. It honestly brought us chills to read what one person could do, and it wasn't even his quote unquote job. He made it that way. So that Leander way is Mr. Heisel. And we're humbled to be just a little part of this decision process, if this is something that you guys do agree with. So I want to thank you for giving me back my roots, for letting us learn and grow with the community, and we only hope that his legacy continues through ES30. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. Really appreciate you serving as a volunteer, and everyone that served on the committee, thank you.
I move that the elementary school
number 30, be named Donald Lewis Heisel Elementary School.
I second.
Trish makes motion, Anna seconds. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? 6 in favor. Anyone opposed? 1 opposed. Motion passes. We're going to go ahead and take a photo, but we also need a break because we need to get some hugs over here. So.
All right, that was exciting. And now we are going to move over to item 7A3, discussion of secondary school attendance zoning.
All right, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Gearing. My colleague Jimmy Disler and I are here tonight. We have newfangled clicker. Okay, to talk through and discuss the secondary zoning decisions that were approved by the Board of Trustees on June 8th of last year. And this, as a reminder, was a request from the board to bring this back for discussion. And so, just because it has been a hot minute, thought we would take some time to just go back over exactly what even prompted the secondary rezoning. So if you recall, we had a bond election in 2021 that failed. And on that, there were lots of pieces, but most importantly, some pieces about our schools, elementary, middle, and even looking at high school. So after that failed bond, we, under the board direction, developed a long-range planning committee, and that was a board and administration. So that was developed in 2022, just after that failed bond, to really look at how are we going to address the needs in our system, knowing we continue to have growth and we did not have the bond funds to support that. Through that, as that committee continued to work, there was this notion about how do we look at strategic rezoning. And in October of that year, the administration did develop a plan for district-wide secondary rezoning, again, based off of the recommendation from the Long Range Planning Committee. So we started that in October. In 2023, of getting into that next year, the Long Range Planning Committee was expanded because, again, direction from the board was we wanted to include more staff and community members. And then we actually fast forward to a successfully passed bond election in May of 2023. And during all of that time, we were finalizing the secondary rezoning. And in June of 2023, that was approved. But just wanted to, again, just ground us all in. This does come back from the long-range planning work. So the long-range plan, as you can see, this is our current iteration, and our long-range planning committee is working feverishly to adjust this. But as you see on there, on that far left side, that the secondary school rezoning, that occurred in the 22-23 school year with the intent for implementation in the 2024 school year. And that was actually very intentional because we wanted to allow families a full year to adjust and prepare. There are lots of decisions that go into, especially when you're going into high school and middle school, and we wanted to make sure that families had that opportunity to adjust, so we started a full school year earlier. Some of the pieces, again, just want to highlight in the long-range planning committee are the parameters by which all decisions are vetted. And so one parameter to strengthen the student experience, that has to be at the core of all of this work, establishing long-term stability, making sure we're thinking about access to choice options, and honoring the neighborhood school concept where we can still meet the intent of the long-range plan. We have to balance that with the prioritizing fiscal responsibility, maximizing usage of district facilities through strategic rezoning, which is part of what we're talking about tonight, optimization opportunities, and also looking at how we can defer timing on future construction. So that definitely was a factor in this secondary rezoning. As you look at how much it costs to build a middle school and a high school these days, I mean, we are talking over $400 million at the high school level and over about $150 million plus at a middle school, right? So as much as we want to be good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars, and so we definitely want to look at how can we think about it differently. So you have seen this flow chart before, but this is the one that was specific for the secondary rezoning. Again, just wanted to highlight, we actually started with this process in October of 2022. And so as we were going through that, we presented the plan, board did approve the project process, and we set forth on the first scenario. And as you are familiar, we go through iterations. There's lots of feedback opportunities, and so we'll definitely talk through some of those a little bit more. We did develop a second scenario based off of community feedback, and then took that to, after that feedback, felt like we were ready to bring that to long-range planning to make sure it aligned with the parameters that we just discussed. And then did bring it for a board recommendation on May 11th. Then it was approved June 8th. Again, for that implementation of August of 2024, really wanting to make sure families had plenty of time to plan accordingly. So we did talk about the feedback opportunities, and so again, just wanted to remind everyone about that. So we did release our first scenario on January 23rd, and then started community forums. So these were across the district. They were in person, plus we also offered a Zoom session, and so an opportunity to weigh in, give us feedback. And there's just a sample of some of the feedback, the charts. This is actually the slide straight from that presentation. And there was also thought exchange and let's talk. So lots of opportunities for feedback. Based on all of that feedback from that first scenario, the team got together and did make adjustments and developed a second scenario. Went back out, same process. Again, in-person community forums, let's talk, thought exchange. And then based off of all of that feedback, the team felt we were ready to take that to long-range planning. So as a reminder, we take that to the long-range planning because all of this is built from the long-range plan. And so we take the scenario and all of the process, and we're asking the committee, to what degree do you believe this plan meets the parameters of the long-range plan? And so you can see that's the consensogram. So that was when we were a smaller committee at the time. We had not expanded yet, so but still you do have the results there. And that definitely said to the team that we were ready to bring forward that recommendation. And so as a reminder, these are the numbers, again, pulled this straight from the presentation that was done in May of 2023 and approved in June. And so you can see for middle school, the recommendation there. And with that, just wanted to highlight, we did include grandfathering in here. So if you recall that we did say that that those students for 8th grade would be able to stay and finish out their school year, their middle school career there. So that is factored into these numbers. Did also want to point out, as you can see on this, it does push out middle school 10 until 2030, and which actually, when you go back over demographers' reports, we had originally thought that was going to be in 2025. So through this strategic rezoning, we were able to push that 5 years. Huge impact. So then you go to high school. These, again, were the numbers that were presented to show the projections. And again, this was based off of October 2022 demographers' information. But you can see here that the numbers, the projections for the time that the secondary rezoning was approved. It did push out high school 7, again, to 2029, when it was originally projected, the latest was 2025-26. And you can see high school 8 is pushed even out further than the 10-year projections. So as you think about the long-range plan parameters and deferring construction where available, the plan did do that. Some things that definitely you see in there as we were talking about high school 7, you can see that the need pops up with Rouse that starts to hit that 2,600 plus in 2026, and then continues to grow from there. So you can see definitely that need is there for that high school 7 eventually. Okay, so the board approved the secondary zoning based off of all of these projections and the process. And then fast forward to October of 2023, we had updated numbers. So on an annual basis, PASA comes and does a presentation. They look at all of our district, look at and do a demographic study and present that to the board. And so here, part of, again, just pulled straight from that presentation, you can see the updated numbers. I do know that there's been some conversations around that the numbers were inaccurate. Numbers are accurate, it's just that they are from different times. When we have projections, when they do their annual projections, things do shift, and that's what was presented in October of 2023. And you can see here, they actually highlighted what did the new zoning do as far as when you look at our attendance zones and the projections. The intent here really is hoping to see that we see a decrease in the deep red and a decrease in the deep blue. And you do see that as you go from the top chart up to the bottom chart. Next slide does show you the campus utilization. And again, trying to minimize and decrease the blues and the reds. And as you can see, that did occur with the strategic rezoning. Again, this is just for middle school. So then fast forward to high school, so same data set. So you take that projections at October 2023 and look at the change from the attendance zones. Again, looking for a decrease in the blues and a decrease in the reds, and you can definitely see that did occur through that strategic rezoning. And then also looking at the campus utilization. So you see a decrease in the red and blue. Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep moving us along. So part of the questions that have definitely come up as we are hearing just questions and feedback is really trying to look at our campuses and knowing that they are slightly different. And so can our campuses accommodate the numbers? We did see definitely an increase at our high school in 2026. We see a little jump up for Cedar Park High School. And then we see a little jump up in Cedar Park Middle School and, a little bit higher. And so that has definitely brought some questions forward. So what we wanted to put together for you was a campus space comparison. And so here you have each of the high school campuses looking at the number of core classrooms, and this is in their main building, so their main academic building, that is, building A, sometimes building 1, but just try to give a sense of that for the community and for the Board of Trustees. I do obviously want to highlight Glenn High School that has less number of classrooms, and we know that was a strategic design. It was thought about differently. How do we take that neighborhood concept? So there are fewer classrooms, and then we have teacher houses. And with that, the teachers, they do not have an assigned classroom. They rotate around, and so it's not their own classroom. And this way you can actually maximize the classrooms because the teachers have a teacher house where they can plan and keep their items. Did want to give you the comparison for CTE spaces, knowing that that's also where a lot of our students spend a lot of time. And then you can see science labs and computer labs. Just wanted to give context for you all about when you think about numbers and the different campuses. We do also get questions about, so what about cafeterias and can they actually house all of the students? So the team put together what is the cafeteria square footage between each of the campuses. One thing we do just want to point out is that
when we have an increased number of students on a campus, then the campus administration works through master schedule, and they will maybe increase and have 3 lunches instead of 2. We actually have a couple of campuses right now that do have 3 lunches just because of their size. So that is part of the master schedule work that happens at the local level. Did also want to point out about the hallway width, because this question has come up. So just wanted to give that comparison for you all. Again, feel like we need to point out about Glenn. For that just to be apples to apples, we take that from the door to the collaborative space. We know the collaborative space does provide a little bit more room there, but again, wanted to provide that apples to apples for the classroom to the hallway. And then parking spaces at high school, that definitely is something that we have to factor in. And so wanted to give that comparison for you as well. And that's definitely something that as a campus is increasing then in enrollment, then we do have to look at creative ways. For instance, at Vandergrift, a lot of students park on the street. And then at Vista Ridge, students are parking across at Gupton. As we think about Cedar Park and as they are increasing enrollment, we are actually looking at a couple of different options about how we can support parking there, especially as we are going through the modernization. The modernization is kicking off this summer, and so how do we think through that and make sure we're supporting the campus that way? So those are definitely pieces that we are looking at. What is good to note is that the modernization at Cedar Park High School will be completed the summer of 2026, so before we see that, the increase in numbers there. Okay, so also want to talk about middle school.
Can I interrupt you with the question?
Absolutely, absolutely.
When you talked about that modernization will complete before we see the increase, can you specifically talk to that increase? And I know it's on that chart there, and maybe we need to go back, but I think we've gotten a lot of concerns about the modernization happening at the same time as this huge increase. And so maybe being able to talk through when the modernization is complete and when we see that increase.
I'll attempt to help you out with that one. The numbers, when you look at slide 13, you can see what was projected by PASA to jump from 2268 to 2601. They go up 142 and then 191 students. The one thing that we're seeing is the number for next year is actually lower than what was projected when you consider the request to remain at the campuses and the new transfers. And so when you look at that and you consider if they were to jump the same numbers from what we're thinking next year's will be, they'll be at 2506 instead of 2601. And so they'll be lower at the time the modernization should be complete. I don't know if that helps.
And so to clarify, Jimmy, that the modernization does start this summer.
Yes.
And will be completed by summer of 2026. And 2026, that school year, is where we see the largest increase in the projections for Cedar Park High School, which I know is definitely one of the campuses in question right now.
Yep.
So I have a comment on that because what you have given us here for the projected enrollment for 24-25 is 2,173 students compared with 2268. That's a difference, or 2270. That's a difference of 97. However, there's still modernization taking place in 25-26 when it's projected to be slightly above 100%, so like 2,400. It might be less based on the current transfers, but we don't know what the growth might look like or the regeneration that was mentioned. So yes, it will be complete by that biggest, well, not the biggest, the start of the 2,600 as projected, but there's still quite a bit of growth above the expected 2,300 plus students that is expected next year?
One thing I'll add is when you're looking at the projected numbers of the 2188, that includes transfers where when you look at slide 13, those do not include transfers. So you're looking at different things, which Cedar Park has a number of transfer outs also.
Isn't Vista Ridge going through their modernization right now? And they're at, what's their capacity right now?
So yes, Vista Ridge is going through modernization as well. They are on the same timeline, and you look at their current enrollment right now, they're sitting at over 2,500 students, and then looking at projections, they're going to be over 2,500 as well. I'm sorry, 2,400. 2,400.
Yeah.
But yes, so the modernization is occurring. That it will occur when we do see an increase at Cedar Park High School. But with that, we know that we have plans. We're working with the campus, setting up for portables, which was already in place no matter what, and then working with the campus around the plans to support students as we work through that.
So the way I see Vista as being slightly different is because their numbers are going down during the modernization, but Cedar Park's numbers are increasing during the modernization. So it's that adapting to that change. And like we heard today, a big reason for this is relieving the north end of our district. And it seems like just even based on transfers, so that's even another question down the road, is the reason for that large number of transfers, is why it just seems like Cedar Park's taking on a disproportionate burden and increasing those numbers during the actual modernization project.
So I definitely will, I'll let Jimmy tack on to this, but I do want to speak a little bit to what we saw with the projections in the area of Glenn High School. What the demographer has definitely pointed out is that we are seeing the impact of interest rates. And so the growth that we were seeing and projecting for that area has definitely slowed down. There is still land, there's still development, but we're not seeing families move in as fast. And that is one of those things, as interest rates hopefully start dropping, that we will see that bounce back. You just don't know when, and so that is part of that. That's hard to predict in all of this. I don't know, Jimmy, if you have anything else you want to.
As in talking with Stacy, what she said is, it's not going away, it's just delayed. And it's coming, but it's a matter of when we get there. And so we're seeing interest rates ease right now. We'll see how that affects the marketplace for sure. And then, do we want to talk about Cedar Park?
One thing I noticed between the top graph you have here and the one underneath is how Sarah pointed out that the deep reds and the deep blues change to muted colors, where it seems to me that everybody is sharing in the population. And I feel like a number of our high schools have been at or over capacity for a while now, and this shift levels things out a little bit. And you can just see it in the colors there, that's exactly what this does.
And that was one of the main goals, is to make campuses more efficient.
And Leander High School will be going through their master plan, right? And we added how many kids to there? Because I remember asking this question back in April. Y'all know that.
Yeah, Leander, Cedar Park, and Vista are all going to be under construction as they expand. And of course, we're working with the campuses, providing replacement portables for classrooms to be able to get in the campus and get out quickly, as quick as we can. Instead of 4 or 5 years, we're going to do it hopefully 2. Leander is going to be different because next bond has to fund continuation of this, but our goal is we're going to work with the campus without a doubt, helping them.
The only thing I do have to say is y'all know I felt very strongly about secondary rezone, but I live in the north side. I live in the very top tip of the north. I see it. We see the growth in our elementary. We see it in our middle schools. I drive that mess every day, and it's not getting any better. My main concern is when is that high school 7 going, right? Because we see Rouse. We know Rouse is going to explode before Glenn. We know they are, and they're dealing with Raider Way. So I think for me, it does give us a balance, but in the back of my head, I'm wondering what's going to happen if that explosion does happen. What's going to happen to Rouse? What's going to happen to Glenn, Stiles, Wiley? We know they're coming. It's just I want to make sure we're more proactive than reactive, and so we can pivot in a nice fashion.
Yeah. And of course, as we get new projections, we're going to continuously monitor and look at the long-range plan because it's going to come and we need to be prepared, and that's one thing we're very cognizant of, watching those numbers.
Now, I appreciate what Christine was saying. It's the colors are deep, and it's not ideal in a lot of these places, right? I mean, it's not ideal, but we are doing our best. We're being proactive and working with those campuses to find the parking. How are we going to deal with this? Some places it's easier than others. If anyone's kids go to Vandergrift, there is no other road. There is not a road coming, and you're going to park on the street. And so Raider Way, it stinks. We're working on it. I mean, some of those pieces are not ideal, and some of them we can adjust, and some of them, like a secondary road or Raider Way, we have to do whatever we can with the situation we have, but I appreciate that we're thinking about, yes, we're going to be under modernization. Yes, these things are going to be happening. What do we need to do right now to accommodate? And I think a lot of this, when we were doing the secondary zoning, we were thinking about this next high school. We were thinking about what can we do so that we could buy ourselves more time, right? So that we could give ourselves a little bit more time in there. We know that there's going to have to be another bond for school. We also know that we wanted a chance to maximize the resources that we had because we wanted to be good. We wanted to think about our fiduciary duty here and think about how we can maximize all of the space that we had. That was our facility usage. This is our long-range planning. And sometimes it hurts, right? I mean, it hurts when nobody likes rezoning. What I really appreciate looking at this is our transfers in here and giving them that space. And I know I started the questions and you weren't done. And so I'm sorry, I didn't want to get too far in it, but I'm gonna bounce it back to you to go ahead and then we'll take another break and ask some more questions.
It's perfect. That's fine. Definitely, we're good with answering questions along the way. One thing I do want to point out is that I actually did have a conversation with Mr. Sloan, principal at Cedar Park High School, and really trying to understand, as he is looking at this and preparing for what are the questions, what are the concerns, what are the things that he's thinking about. And really, it does come around about how do we prepare for this. And we talked through some of those notions about increasing lunches, or what does that master schedule look like? And what is wonderful, a blessing, is that we have other leaders who have led campuses that are at 2,700 students plus, and how do you think through that, and how do you work through that? And we have incredible leaders who are going to partner together and support staff who are going to help think through all of those pieces. And again, the parking, thinking through all of that. Definitely, we're not leaving a campus on their own to try and figure this out because we know these are complex situations, and we want to make sure we're thinking through and supporting our students and staff in the best way.
So I just wanted to add that, yes, we were, and that was based on, the approval was really based on everybody sharing in the growth of the district. Yes, the goal was to take away those deep colors. It's just still perplexing, the switch in some of the schools, middle school, high school, where the deep colors went away and are replaced with muted blue or muted pink. And that's really part of the issue. And it's looking at the data that was, the initial data, was it last year's PASA data? What month was it? And then this one is currently October, so it was October last year versus October this year, or, well, 22, 23. And that's where the difference came, was from the PASA data. And you've given us the transfer information, which shows pretty much all the schools tracking less than expected, close to anywhere from 60 to maybe 100 students in secondary, or almost 300, almost 300. And so does that mean that these numbers for next year are expected to be, for all of them, are expected to be pretty much, well, we don't know who's going to move in, right? But as we know, as of yesterday, this is what it's looking like.
So a couple of things. So one is just so that our community does know, we have a chart with all of the transfers as of yesterday, knowing that the transfer window is completely still open. So we do have the request to remain that we tried to present here as what we know as of today. And so this will be uploaded just so that everyone does know that they can have access to that. We just wanted to make sure we had the most up-to-date information for you. And so yes, just to thank you for pointing out, when we went through the secondary rezoning, we had to use the most up-to-date information that we had, and at that time it was the demographer's report from 2022. So that's always done in October. And so that is presented here at the board. That was the most recent information that we had about projections. Again, we did this a year in advance because we wanted to allow families the time to adjust and to plan and to prepare and for cheer tryouts and things like that. So we wanted to plan for that. So then you fast forward, what we have here presented is the updated October 2023 data. And as we were digging into it a little bit further, and I'll let Jimmy talk about it, we did see this bubble that is emerging in Cedar Park area. And so Jimmy did talk with the demographer just to better understand it. I literally had the binders out highlighting where, in which neighborhood codes are we finding that this little bubble is popping up. And so Jimmy, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Correct, and that's one thing, as we looked into the data and also had conversations with PASA, the Cedar Park, you see it at the middle school, the 7th, 8th grade, 6th grade, they had a bump. You know, when we do this process, in September, we do a data download of all of our students as of September 6th, I think it was this past year. They take that data and then they analyze what was projected number of students at each neighborhood code, and they've noticed within Cedar Park, you had a bump. And that's why when you look at Cedar Park for next year, they're below what's projected, but you see an increase in the second and the third year, and that's from those middle school kids coming up through the system. And so that's why you're going to see that increase for that. As Stacia said, is it regeneration? It's too early to tell. That's one data point that we have that showed the population growing, and it's really in Cedar Park proper, not all of Cedar Park attendance zone, but in some of Vista area also has some of it. But it really is in Cedar Park because Marty actually ran reports that showed by neighborhood code of October to October. And it's not just one or two, because my first instinct was Treviso must have really grown, and that's what's pushing Cedar Park up. But it wasn't. They're pretty close. It was other parts of Buttercup in the central part of Cedar Park that really has grown. And that's what caused the issue now. And that's why Cedar Park Middle School, with the numbers that you look at, they're higher actually than what was projected. It's Cedar Park area. I don't know if that helps, but.
So anecdotally, was trying to help my daughter purchase her first condo, and the price on that condo was astronomical. The interest rate And so we looked at the total, what her monthly payments would be, and we were just like, that's not gonna work. So that's one anecdotal story that I keep hearing, that there are some anomalies going on right now that's also messing with these numbers. I appreciate you showing us the colors though, so that we could help see the predictions as we're going forward. If I could bump you to slide number 19, because that's where you're going anyway. So I'm going to get you towards your next space that you're going to head. Actions taken since approval. We keep talking about it, the student transfers. And so I just wanted to say, moving forward, as we start thinking of future zoning, I would like to see kind of how do we keep capacity open for our students to transfer. That's another school of choice. And that's really important. And I think that's critical that we look at how do we keep that open. I also understand that when there's modernization, there's going to be an exception to the rule. And so I will say, we've talked about it, there are 3 campuses, LHS, Cedar Park, and Vista Ridge. So those transfers, you were telling me that parents, when they're trying to transfer, unless a very small circumstance, which would be employees, parents otherwise cannot get transfers in because of the modernization. So we're being careful of those transfers at this time for the capacity.
Yes, absolutely. So, as we looked at the modernization, this is the first time that we've approached modernization through the school year. And so we needed to factor that in as we think about what does this look like on a campus? And so we did close these campuses because of the modernization. So we wanted to limit the voluntary transfer. So this is not about those that requested to remain, but a voluntary transfer. I'd like to go to this campus because of X. And so right now they are closed. We'll get through the modernizations and then we will be able to open them back up, looking at their numbers and capacity at the time. We always evaluate that every year. But definitely I heard you about how do we keep space open as we think about rezoning, as we're in a little bit different spot than we have been in years past. And so there's definitely something we can factor into.
I just want to add to what Trish was saying. I'd like for our policy committee to look at our transfer local policy. As a parent who utilizes our transfer services, and I love it because we do have our own schools of choice in our public schools. We've had this conversation in long-range plan. I think we've hit that where it's time, that road, to just kind of strengthen it and make sure that we're not, like what Trish was saying, we're limiting our amazing choices to students, and students have the opportunity, like my students have to experience schools that work for them. So I'd love the policy committee to take off and run with that.
So I just need some clarification on that regarding the transfers. So the request to remain, that's what happened in the fall. Those have been approved because they're grandfathered in, they're requesting to stay in their schools. When it comes to the voluntary ones, that's the one that's ongoing. And we do see some requests to go in, some to go out. So are those going to be decided once it's closed as to whether those requesting to come in are going to be allowed because of the modernization, or you said something about them being closed?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you. So we did include on here not only the request to remain, which we did have a window open in the fall, so it was November, December area, but what we also heard from community is that some people did not get the message that was open, so we decided to open it up again. So right now, in case people are listening, the request to remain window is still open until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, on the 31st. And so those are our students who want to stay at their campus and not move to their rezone. What we also included on here is the voluntary transfer numbers, and this is the net transfers as they stand right now. This was saying if we were to approve all of them, what would that look like? You are correct. Decisions about voluntary transfers have not been made. We close the window, and then we look at them overall as the whole, not on a one-by-one basis. And so those decisions will be made about mid-April. But we wanted to give you, okay, what does that look like as of right now?
Okay, and then for those that are, the request to remain, there, I guess I'll follow up with you because there were some neighborhood codes that were brought up in emails where people were concerned that they might not know. And I can follow up with you after just to make sure that they definitely know. And it has to do with Leander Middle School to Cedar Park High School rezone. So we can follow up afterwards.
Yes.
And I think the more, are you going to go through the classroom? So yeah, because I had some questions about that. So I'll let you go through those.
The communication piece, I know some neighborhoods of Glen, because I got tagged on some post. I know that they weren't informed back in November, but I appreciate y'all more than anything making the initiative, but not only through us, but I've heard campus administration is taking that step to making sure that those students who are impacted, they're meeting one-on-one on them. So I know they have everything else going on in the day, but I do know that that is happening at each of our campuses. So thank you, because my big concern was our students. You know, English is not their family's first language. And, you know, some families are trying to work 3 to 4 jobs just to try to live. So I thank you to our principals and our administration at those campuses.
Thank you for bringing that up. It definitely, they have taken that upon themselves of just, they want to make sure that we are taking care of students and them being a part of choice, so their course selections and all of that. So that's been great. Thank you. Okay, so I am going to, all right, okay, so we are on middle school campus comparison. So we did pull this information again. Just wanted to give you a snapshot on that. The one thing I do want to point out, so this was core classrooms in their main building area, which most of our middle school campuses only have one building area. I do want to point out Cedar Park Middle School actually has an addition. And so that isn't reflected in these numbers. There's 12 more classrooms on there, but we were trying to do, again, apples to apples comparison. So Cedar Park Middle School does have an addition in the back behind the building, and so there's 12 more classrooms there. You can see the science labs are all the same. Computer labs, you have slight variance, but you do see that there. And then again, we wanted to point out just the cafeteria and the hallways. Want to point out, obviously, for Danielson, because it is designed as the neighborhood concept, they do have collaborative spaces. So again, we showed the hallway from the doorway of the classroom to that collaborative space because it is intended that collaborative space, it's not part of the hallway, but just want to be transparent about that.
Yeah, I think that maybe for Danielson and Glenn, you probably want to add plus collaborative space because it's so, I mean, anybody who sees this it's so far from what is practical and what is actually being used, which is the students are just walking through that middle area. So you can put the 9 feet there plus collaborative because it really is being used. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying that I think it's helpful to say that for the hallway, instead of looking at it at just 9 feet, it's like 9 feet plus collaborative space or something like that.
Thank you. We were trying to have that apples to apples comparison, but definitely I hear what you're saying.
I'll interject. One thing, as we designed those new schools with the collaborative center spaces, by code, we have to have egress pathways. And so we designate certain width as our corridor that we cannot put anything in it. And so that's what we're identifying here.
Thank you, Jimmy.
So with the 52 plus 12 in Cedar Park Middle School, are you basically saying that the capacity is more than 1358? Or it is still 1358?
It is still 1358, yes. Yeah, it was with the addition that brought that to 1358, yes.
When we did that addition, it actually just replaced portables. That was the whole purpose behind that addition, was they had a number of portables back there all the time, and so we built, like Leander Middle School.
As an anecdote, I taught in one of those portables my very first year in this.
That was the other one too. That was pretty. The the attendance zones, the coloring switched as well. So it's all muted, but, well, not all muted, but yeah, it was also another surprise.
Okay, all right, so I am going to get to the last slide. And so we did want to just take some time, I know this has come up in just in conversations before, about what are some of the things that have actually occurred since the board did take action on the secondary zoning. And so we just wanted to give you a snapshot of what all has happened. So because upon that approval, we moved on different things. So one is student transfers, and we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. We have the request to remain. There are voluntary transfers, and we'll talk about that. Students have engaged in course selections, so for the campuses that they are zoned for next year. We have had dance team auditions at high school. We've had cheer tryouts at high school. And again, it is based off of and middle school, yes. Yeah, that's true. And middle school, yes. Yes. And then just to point out, because then this happens anytime we do see a change in enrollment, that course offerings have been adjusted. And that is all driven by student course selections as well. So adjustments have been made. As far as staffing goes, we have surplus teachers that have been placed. Teacher transfers have all been communicated. Principals have begun hiring based on enrollment needs. We actually had just a wildly successful job fair this past Saturday. So a shout out to our HR team who put on an incredible job fair, and our principals and campus teams that were there talking to these great candidates. And then special education staffing has been allocated, that has gone out, and so those shifts are starting to happen. And again, that course offerings that have been adjusted, that does obviously impact our teachers as well, thinking about the courses that they will be teaching. So just wanted to give a snapshot of some of the work that has already happened, and obviously the planning for next year. Our principals definitely live in 2 school years at this time of year, and they have been since January, as they are trying to wrap up this one strong and plan effectively for next year. So, okay, so I know transfers, we've kind of talked a little bit about. Oh, yes, ma'am, did you have a?
I was just going to say, all of this is why the board voted on secondary when we did, because what we've heard previously, when y'all wait too long, your students need to pick band instruments. Girls want to try out for dance and for cheer. We need to hire enough. We need to move teachers. We need to know the course. And so I know that the board specifically asked y'all to start this process early so that all of these actions could be taken, and so that our families would have enough time to do these things, and our campuses would be prepared to accept the changes and be ready to support those students with all the extras as well. So I appreciate that. I appreciate seeing this, because this was the intent, so that way that transition was smoother and everyone was prepared. So thank you for highlighting that.
So just while we're on the subject of transfers, I think that something that really sticks out is even in the PASA report and also in this updated report is the number of transfers out of Glenn, or the requests out, the net transfer out. And so I think that, do you, as part of that transfer process, is there a question that is asked as to why people want to transfer? So that we can gather data to really understand why the transfers out are much larger.
So as a parent who utilizes transfer services, I can tell you it's a case-by-case basis. I mean, y'all know my kid doesn't go to her home campus for middle school. And the reason why we did that was because we were part of the rezone. And for us, it just made sense for her to follow her friends, and that community worked for her. My other kid, same problem. It just what works. I mean, each individual has their own thing. And if you look at that area in particular, I know, like my community, I could easily go to Rouse or Glenn. I'm in the middle. And for me, going to Rouse, even though that's not my home campus, is more feasible for me to drive there as a parent than it would be to Glenn.
So those are all that's all valuable feedback that we can get I haven't utilized the transfer portal or to see what it looks like. If that's a question, people can provide input as to why they're requesting transfers. That can help with future actions.
I think you can put some information. I did the request for transfer. My son was, his home campus was Vandergrift. He transferred to Vista Ridge because he wanted to do ROTC, and that was all listed on there. So you can put that information as well.
I think
Just
also
I've asked why people transfer, and I don't seem to get an answer.
I just want to make sure if we do that, we're doing it across the board and we're not singling out Glenn in particular, just because I don't want us to come off attacking a high school.
No, I'm not attacking the high school. Yeah, I just picked the biggest one. LHS2 has they all have good, well, maybe not, I don't know. They all have large numbers, so it's some kind of number. So it'd be nice to know why people want to go to one school versus another. And I've been asking really because if there are certain programs that are of interest, and we might just put it in the school, and that's all I'm asking. I'm not singling out schools.
Well, and so let's talk a little bit more about the actual transfer sheet, because that may help give some insight here. Especially since our community is listening in on this, what we have presented here is, and Jimmy, you're going to jump in and correct all of this for me, but the current request to remain, so like for Glenn High School, is 251. That's how many we actually have requested, and so they want to stay at Glenn. The projections for October 2023, so PASA actually factored in a certain number of students that we're going to request to remain to stay. So that's, you see, there's two different numbers there, and the difference is 68. Yeah, so we had 68 students as of now, as of yesterday, right, I should say, window's still open, who did not put in a request to remain. Could be for a number of things, because for transfers, transportation is not provided. And so that could be a factor for families, or they want to go ahead and make the shifts. They know that it's coming, and so just want to go ahead. Now, definitely, could we dig into further about that? Absolutely. So you do see at Glenn High School specifically 68 students that have not put in a request to remain, so they're going to go ahead and make the shift. When you look at their voluntary transfer, that net is 77 plus. So that's 77 students more that want to come to Glenn than who are looking to leave. And so then when you factor all of that, you actually get a change of 9. So just some things definitely to look at. Anything I missed on?
Yeah, I think I was referring to the information that was on the previous slide, the minus 191. But so that was it. But it's just in general, because that reduced the next number, and so it reduces for future years, and so that number was what I was wondering about.
Sarah, can you, when I was looking at that number, I'm not sure I understood that. So when we're looking at column J, which is the voluntary requests, those are students that are asking to stay.
The voluntary transfer request is just that. They're asking to move to a campus voluntarily.
Okay. So, but the number, I'm seeing it next to Glenn. They want to move to Glenn?
Yes.
Oh,
77
okay. See, I think some of us
students
were
outside
thinking
the
that
Glenn zone
77
wants to go there.
Next to Glenn, and I saw requests change. I thought they were requesting out, but that's actually opposite. So those are 77 moving in. And so when I see the negative 81 at Cedar Park, those are 81 that are requesting to move out of Cedar Park High School.
Correct.
Okay. I think I was reversing those. So thank you for that.
Good question.
Great discussion. Thank you. It makes so much more sense. I was like, I think when we saw that, we were thinking about it as request
out, not request in, and then the numbers weren't making complete sense. But that's wonderful.
And a piece of feedback that I got had to do with on the modernization project and the utilization of the space on campus. I haven't looked at it yet, but was that there was better use of space with their project in Leander versus Cedar Park. So I just wanted to pass that feedback on to you so that you can look into that in terms of the use of the space in trying to get the modernization project started.
I think we'd definitely like to hear a little bit more about that. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I have a really quick question. Y'all mentioned earlier about the parking. And the campus is undergoing modernization. Some of them have a unique problem in that they are landlocked. There's not a stadium across the street. LHS has the band pad that takes up the whole corner. You knew I was going to say it. So how does it work for the parking in the campuses like Cedar Park High School where there is nowhere else for them to go?
We're looking at various options to get temporary parking. Our original option was up in the corner towards Cypress Creek Road, the grass area, but actually we're putting the contractor out there to stage the contractors and the workers out there so we don't take additional parking. So we're leaving that to students, and now we're going to look at other options of some temporary parking on some of the fields just to try to get something to help them, because it is challenging, no doubt.
Oh, sorry, you said fields. What fields? Fields. Just what fields? No, Cedar Park. I thought he said
Cedar Park has 3 grass fields back there, and most high schools only have 2. And so on a temporary basis, can we use one of those to put some parking on just to help offload, to provide something for the students?
And 18 plus will be removed from there because we're going to have
enough.
a building.
So thank y'all for giving us such a great sheet here to help follow. I rely on y'all pointing things out to us a lot, but you know this, we have questions, and for you to come back and go, wait, I get your spot checking, I'm still going to rely on your experience. You are the ones hired to help do this. And so at some point when I'm looking at a number and I'm like, oh, are they moving to Glenn? Is it 77? Is 5 a good number or 77? What does 6 mean? There's a lot of story in these numbers that don't always come out. And so from my point of view, when we talk about zoning, and I told you this, Sarah, for me, part of it, zoning is almost operations because it's making sure the process was done. Did you include the community? But it's this actions, to me, this slide is really kind of the meat of where I see where Board of Trustees are gonna be focusing, because it's about student learning. What type of learning environment is created in this? Whether it's 5 or 4, and of course we want to make sure the numbers are right, but once you do this balancing, how does this impact our learning environment? And so thank you for kind of reminding us, we approved, you did these actions show us what that student learning environment, and hopefully how our students are going to achieve the graduate profile, and we're going to have empowered staff and student learning going on. And so this is the meat of it for me as we continue to move forward, is like later look back of like, how did this work and how do we do continuous improvement going forward? So thank you.
Is there any other questions? No other questions? I just want to thank y'all again. I think this is a really great discussion. I think it's exciting for many of us to see that, we wanted this process to happen sooner, and we approved that secondary rezone, so all of these actions could be taken, so that we could support that student learning with the staff, with the facilities, for our students. So this has been a great conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Gloria and board, for bringing the conversation. I feel like it's been helpful and clarifying, so thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I love this, y'all. Thank y'all for listening to me. I know I asked a lot, but I appreciate y'all.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
to 7B, our governance, and we're going to start with 7B1. Consider approval of resolution directing administration to submit feedback to the draft State Board of Education regarding the dyslexia rules and draft handbook.
So I guess I'll speak on this one. I wasn't sure if Bruce is going to take this one or me, but here we go. Really what this is a request for you to consider adoption of a resolution. We've had requests from your legislative committee to look into this. And the issue that we're looking at right now is that the State Board of Education now has draft rules and a draft update to the Dyslexia and Dysgraphia Handbook. And they're in the public comment period right now. And so pursuant to the Administrative Procedures Act, when a state agency is getting ready to promulgate proposed rules, they're required to open that to public comment. And we have an opportunity to weigh in on that. And honestly, it's pretty ordinary and routine for that. I mean, members of the public do that. Potentially affected agencies do that. In the draft, we've seen, and some other organizations that also review this stuff have seen, that there are, I would call it imprecision in the language in a couple of the rules and in the handbook. And this has been looking at it with Dr. Gearing as well as with Kimberly Waltman, who's your Assistant Superintendent of Special Programs, and I just say yada, 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 because there's a lot of, her title's longer than we have time for this evening. And so we would suggest that you direct us to draft a letter that hits those technical points to ensure that we can at least say that we've done our due diligence to ensure that the rulemaking reflects what the intent of the statutory language is, but is also clear, which is kind to us as district administration and how we implement it. It's kind to parents. And we do truly believe that having good, clear rules also reduce our risk of having disputes and potentially litigation when it's really kind of ambiguous and unclear what the intent of the language is. So unless you have any questions, that's what I have to present tonight. You'll see in your packet that there is a draft resolution for your consideration.
I move that the board adopt the resolution highlighting concerns with draft SBOE rules regarding dyslexia and draft dyslexia handbook.
I second.
Christine made a motion. Who seconded that? Francesca. I'm sorry, I couldn't tell. I knew it was from down there. Francesca makes a second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to make a comment that this is not us disagreeing with the new dyslexia law or anything. This is for us advocating to make it a better law, because what I feel like they are trying to propose is setting not only our parents and students up for failure, but also they're creating that hostile environment that, for whatever reason, they want this hostile environment with parents and districts. And so what I love about this resolution is our district is going to get out there and advocate for a better system and a better solution for our students with dyslexia.
Yes, and I thank you for providing that clarification. We have absolutely no opposition to the new state law on dyslexia. In fact, it really aligns it with the way most of the nation handles this, and we think it's actually a better approach for kids. We just want to make sure that the rules are clear so that everybody's on the same page, and we don't, exactly as you articulated, that we don't unnecessarily create tension and hostility between parents and the schools, because we're partners here. We're all here for the same reason, which is to do our best to give kids their best opportunity to access their education.
And approval of this rule also allows your legislative committee, if there's questions or discussion before the SBOE, to use the language from the district worked on to advocate in front of the SBOE.
I just want to add, for those who are watching, Kimberly really explained it last board meeting as to the new requirements and the barriers that it could place on some of our students receiving evaluation. So I'm thankful that we have a legislative committee and board who are willing to advocate for our students, but also in particular for special education. And as much as I'm grateful for dyslexia finally being included and Texas waking up, we still got to advocate and make sure that it's going to be the right systems in place for our students.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor? 7 in favor, motion passes. We're gonna
Thank you
move-
all.
Thank you. We're gonna move over to 7B2, conduct Region 13 Education Service Education a Board of Directors election for place 4.
Okay, just very quickly, there are actually 3 places up for election, and 2 of those places are not contested, so there is just 1 place that requires your ballot. So you have those blue ballots at your table. The rules do require that you complete those ballots now and then turn them back to me, and I will make sure that they get back to Region 13. So if you'll just mark one of those and send them back to me, I'd appreciate it.
All right, that moves us over to item 7C on operations. 7C1 is critical approval of early release of critical positions. Consider approval, not critical approval, which it might be critical at the same time.
Good evening. I am playing the role of Dr. Poppy tonight in these release of critical positions. So we have an additional 8 positions that we're bringing to you. All of these positions support the special education programming. Some of them are for growth positions, and then as you see, some of them are due to the autism grant coming to an end and moving those over to general fund. So we are asking for action tonight on this item.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the addition of 8 positions for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
I second.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chris makes motion, Francesca. It's real hard from that corner. Like it's not, Francesca makes a second. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor? 7 in favor, motion passes.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move over to 7C2, our business and finance monthly reports.
I know, Pete has clones tonight. Tonight, the presentation of the regular monthly financial reports through the month end of February 2024. Bond projects have been updated accordingly. If you have any questions, I can address or do my best to address those. I would like to discuss a little bit on the monthly financial report. Just quick overview. Revenues are tracking at 87% of our projected budget as of the end of February, and expenditures are tracking at approximately 53%. And that's through it's 8 months of the fiscal year. I think there were some questions. Do you have questions? Are you good?
Pete already got me all the answers, so thank you.
Okay. And then on the last thing on the financial report was the debt service. In February, we incurred our interest-only payment of $57 million. And so now we will not see another payment until the new fiscal year in August, which will include principal and interest. So, moving on to the monthly investment report, a couple of quick highlights. Before I got over here, I was just checking interest overall. We've realized over $24 million in interest revenue across all our funds for the district. And broken down, general operating is approximately $8 million in interest. Our capital projects are $11 million, and debt services at $3.2. And then on page 4 of the report, there's the trending, and you'll see that our investment portfolio is well above the benchmark, which we use the 90-day T-bill. And so the Leander portfolio is at roughly 5.47%. Benchmark is 5.24, so we're trending about 23 basis points above the benchmark So kudos to our Treasury team for the investments that they are pursuing and laddering out to leave us in a good position moving forward. And then finally, tax collection report. On page 2 of this report, you'll see December, January, and February. We maximized our tax revenues for the year. And so we are trending at approximately 97% of the budget for the collections. And that's all I have, if there's any questions.
Any questions?
Okay.
No questions. Thank you so much for filling in.
Right.
We appreciate you. All right. It is 8:54 p.m. and the board will now go into closed session for the purposes permitted by Texas Government Codes 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation and or attorney-client privilege matter. Texas Government Code 551.074, deliberation regarding resignations, terminations, employment, reassignments, duties, and evaluation of personnel and public officers. Government Code 5510821, deliberation regarding matters whereby personally identifiable information regarding one or more students may be disclosed. Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel, consideration of term, probationary, non-chapter 21 employment contract renewals for administrators and other professional educators, and Texas Government Code 551.074, superintendent formative evaluation quarterly review. No action will be taken in closed session. Any action related to closed session, agenda items will be taken when the board returns to open session.
Any motions related to closed session agenda items?
I move that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendations for probationary and term for administrator contract renewals as presented in accordance with the salary scales, policies, and contracts of Leander Independent School District for the 2024-2025 school year.
I second.
Francesca makes a motion, Anna seconds. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor? 7 in favor, motion passes. It is 9:32 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.